The last part of the prophecy. There will be fighting war in this country, Yah says, but not at this time. The destabilizing breakdown of the nation must come first before a war can start. Therefore, there will be a destabilizing of the people and a disenfranchisement of their rights until everything about them is unsteady and unpredictable. Only when they are like a tossing sea can a great war start here, when everything is taken away and they have no choice but to fight. The government will fight and the people will fight, and great slaughter will be seen here on a scale that has never been witnessed before. The foreigners are already being thrown out so as to be out of harm's way. As I said, my quarrel is not with them, but with the natural born of this land. Until I have secured the foreign born, I will not raise my hand for the war horse. I will bring them out with a sovereign hand, and they will also go out under the hand of the Lord, driving them to safety of their own shores. War is coming, but not now. The Lord is holding open a door for people to leave if they want, but also they will be driven from here. So, for a long time, I prophesied here on the Master's Voice that diaspora would come to America. Diaspora is a scattering of peoples to all the different parts of the world. I prophesied that diaspora would come to America, and that diaspora would be twofold, well, multiple fold, in that some people will start to get a feeling from their heart that they really should go back to the country that they came from. It's not going to be because they've been listening to Master's Voice prophecies and they're now scared and they now want to leave America. It's going to be almost like a sort of a moving of the Holy Spirit, like the edges of the sea lapping on the land gently. Like, you really should pursue other avenues of where to live. You start to just have a longing for a homeland that you came from. You start to have a longing for a homeland that you're totally disconnected from. Your parents come from there. You're born in America. You don't know anything about where you come from, but you just start feeling, you know what, I need to take a holiday there. You start to feel a pull. You start to feel a connection. And to understand more about how that's going to work, God working in the heart of a people, or a person or a family, through dreams or speaking to them directly, or just this longing, that the name of that prophecy is called diaspora. But then another way that it's going to happen is that it's going to happen by duress. And one of the types of duress that I talked about is the fact that when America begins to go through her pains, when America begins to go through her death pangs, basically, when the country is now starting to go through disenfranchisement, breaking down, economic hardship, people can't find jobs and things like that, you will start to see people leaving America because of situations that they can't help. Like, you live in a city and you lose your job, and then you're using up your savings, and you're pretty confident that you'll find another job, but you don't find another job. And then you have to downsize because you're thinking, my savings can't handle this. It's been a year of no work, and you're now stuck. Should I move to another place, or should I continue paying? And then the money is finishing. And then before you know it, you end up having to leave that city, maybe go back to where you come from. And then you keep thinking, I'll be able to come back in, but now look at the situation with what immigration is doing. Then you may not be able to come back, even if you previously held a green card or something like that. That's one way. Economic factors, Yah was saying, will squeeze a lot of people out. Smart people, Yah said, and this was in 2022, 2023, God said, smart people can already read the room. They could already look at America's economy, because there's some people who are very good with being able to look in the future and see, this money is going to be useless. This economy is going to do this and that and that. And they divested a long time ago, and they emigrated. A lot of rich people have gone to Europe already. Portugal and Turkey are destinations of choice. Some people have gone to Italy and things like that. A ton of people have gone to Africa. I spoke about that some years ago, that God was saying they've already gone and started over and have 3 brand new babies by now. And they've left the rest of the Americans like, if you guys can see what's coming, we can see. And they've taken their money to places like South Africa, like Nigeria, like Ghana, like Kenya. They've taken their money to places where $1 goes a long way. And so they're able to live like kings over there, starting over there, basically putting their hands to business, finding what they can do. And they're not concerned about the slow decline of the United States and the fact that we won't have the grid, we won't have healthcare and all that. That's not their business. Whether a massive earthquake takes place in California. They left California 2 years ago. And so Yah says that some people are wise. They haven't seen a single prophecy from me. They can simply read the writing on the wall, and they're gone. So these are people who are not infected with the sickness of greatest country in the world. They're able to look and see decline and rot and lichen on the walls, and decided, I'm not staying here to watch the entire house get taken over by mildew. I'm out of here. And so they left. That's one way. So people are going to leave because of a longing. They're going to relocate back to their countries. This is being led by your heart or being led by the Lord back to your point of origin. Some people are leaving and they're not going to their point of origin. They're foreign in those places. They're American. They don't belong there, but they've moved there. They've set up lives. And they're in Brazil. They're in Chile. They have no intention of coming back. So that's a second way. A third way is I spoke of economic factors and hard life factors, squeezing people out. And God was speaking of, for instance, Caribbean nations when he was speaking about that and saying things like, I'm going to drive you out of here. So some people, you lose your nursing license. It's so unfair, but you get driven out of that place, right? You get driven out of that place and then you end up having to go back to where you came from and you're lamenting why? But then in the end, Yah said he's doing it for protection. The judgment that is coming upon America is for Americans. I've always said that. The judgment of America is for Americans. It's for the sons of the soil. If the sins of the soil are in the soil, Yah is saying he doesn't have a quarrel with a Mexican who just came here to try and make a buck. What is the judgment of America? The melting down of her steel towers, right? Through sulfuric balls that are going to come out of the sky for the child molesting that happens here. I saw huge balls of sulfur coming out of the sky and basically burning this country to a crisp, torching it, cooking it, as well as rockets and nukes. What does that have to do with the fact that a Mexican person comes here and stands on the side of the street trying to see if he can get a day's work? Nothing. Why should that man perish for sins that are in the bedrock? Like, that Mexican man has come here, maybe he's lived here and he has a good life, and he's got 3 children that he and his wife decided not a single one of them should end up in the toilet. Like, she never contacted Walmart and said, can you mail me an abortion pill? So why should that man cook with the rest of the abortion crew? No, God is just. And God says that one of the things he's going to do is he's simply going to loosen the economic screws of this country until everybody who was holding on to it is going to tumble right back to where they came from. And he says it's for safety against the great slaughter that will happen here on a scale that has never witnessed before. One of the things I used to prophesy in the past was that Yah says when the judgment of America begins to really squeeze, the people in the country will start to hate each other. I've already discussed that. And Yah said that the Japanese person in the office who is transferred fresh from Tokyo, been here 5 years, great work environment, is going to be thinking, what is wrong with these people? And there's going to be so much tension and so much backstabbing that person's going to pack themselves right back to go and work for Mitsubishi Bank back where they came from. Like that. The enmity will be against flesh of the soil. And Yah said that foreigners will simply not understand it and start having conversations like, I don't think there's anything here for us anymore, Jan. Let's go back to South Africa. And then they just go like that. They'll just disconnect and walk away. I spoke about the Mexican exodus out of America. I spoke about the huge transfer of intellectual property and mental wealth that's going to take place when the Africans disconnect. The doctors, the lawyers, all of them, even second generation, are going to follow their parents right back to wherever they came from. So there's going to be a huge brain drain that will happen. There's already been a labor drain. People in different places where they pick strawberries and everything are already crying because ICE has driven away all the free labor that kept fruit coming to American tables. But there's going to be also a massive transfer of skilled labor out of the United States, which will affect the quality of life in this country, the economic stability of the country, and the basic earning power of the country. So there's that. Always remember that governments love it when people spend, and the people who spend the most are educated professionals and also, I guess, streamers from YouTube, because they make a ton of money, social media people. But the educated class is very important. And then all of a sudden, Yah says when you get a massive disconnect of the educated class going back to Venezuela, going back to Canada, going back to wherever they came from, then America's going to be like, oh, I don't look as pretty as I used to. And also the economy is more sluggish because these people are going to leave with their money, with their assets, and with their life skills, their educational life skills, their degrees. So other places will be getting bonuses as good doctors come home, good lawyers, good architects, and things like that. And America is going to suffer that loss. Another way that people are going to leave, God was talking about, he will orchestrate situations whereby maybe something will happen back home and you have to go back home. And then when you get back home, he's going to speak to you. So the example he gave was Haitian people. And he said that Haitian people, for instance, but you can just extrapolate that to any any nationality. He was saying that when you get that call that your grandmother is so sick, your mother is so sick, near death in Haiti, in Jamaica, in Guyana, you're going to rush back thinking that it's the end and you have to be there. And then you get there and she requires like 6 months of care. And she's like, I just needed to be you. And that woman, she's sick, but that sickness is of God. She's not actually going to die. This is what God was saying. I will orchestrate a way to get you out of here, to keep you safe. It is my protection. It is my preservation. It is my love. You go and see grandma and then she miraculously recovered. But by that time you've reconnected with your old friends. You found a great job and you start thinking about the 52 shifts a week that you do here and you just don't want to come back. You just break your lease and just don't come back. That's one of the things that he was talking about. The last, final, and most obvious way is, of course, when all is said and done, we've passed all the stages and we get to the end stage where war breaks out here, then people will be fleeing, literally climbing over the border wall, packing cargo planes, sailing out by whatever boat they can do to get wherever. It's going to be literally fleeing for life. And Yah says that group of people now who've stayed, saying the prophecy is a lie, or not even knowing about the prophecy, or saying, oh no, it's probably going to be a little skirmish. God says now this is the people who will be most disenfranchised because they'll be fleeing for life and they will not be able to take anything with them. So I've shared, I think it was in the prophecy about the government seizing wealth, that the U.S. government is going to make some sweeping changes that will affect property ownership in America. Who can be a property owner? They will literally start saying things like, you own 3 houses, that's too much for you. And they're going to come and start seizing property, and people are going to be running away with their title deeds, their gold bars, their treasures, necklaces, other things. Are going to be fleeing for the borders, and the government is basically going to gobble up a lot of standing wealth, like boats, like physical things that people can't run with, like homes and things like that. They're going to call it forfeit. And if the government also needs to come up with a false story to say, you know, he was a money launderer, you were not, you were just an investment banker and you have paperwork for everything. But they're just going to come up with an after story. They're going to paint you as an enemy of the state, and then once they paint you that way, then they're going to capture all your wealth and then say it's all forfeit, and they will share it among themselves. So don't think it's necessarily this government. The U.S. government is a long-running entity. Whoever's sitting in the seat is going to be building up the beast system. And in the beast system, the rule is that the citizenry will have nothing and be happy